Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. First it was Abuja, then Enugu, and here we are in Port Harcourt, the great Port Harcourt city, the capital of Rivers State. Beautiful, beautiful city. As usual, when I go into a new city, it's not exactly new for me, but when I go into a city or a town, I like to find out a little bit about its history. Port Harcourt was founded in 1912. That was back in the days. Nigeria was established in 1914, so it was, Port Harcourt is pre-Nigeria, if I may say so. And interestingly, it looks like a big city when you are inside of it, but Port Harcourt has a population of just about 1.8 million people. I say just about because I'm based in Lagos, where we are about 20 million people. It's a massive, massive difference. Now, another interesting thing about Port Harcourt is it's named after a gentleman who was a colonial officer called Louis Vernon Harcourt. Now, that is a very interesting character. And part of his story is extremely controversial. I don't want to mention it on TV. You should go and do a check yourself and you'll find out what I'm talking about. Very controversial part of his story. But nevertheless, Port Harcourt is really, really a great city. And I've been having a lot of fun here. Part of the fun I've been having is reading this book titled The Will to Win. The Will to Win is the story of Biodun Shobanjo. Biodun Shobanjo is one of the most iconic figures in Nigeria's business community, and he's regarded by most as the guru of marketing communications and advertising industries in Nigeria. For those who have always wondered what his story is and how he became such a success, this new book titled The Will to Win, which is a biography on his life, has just been released. The book is authored by Dotun Adekombi, and it tells Biodun Shobanjo's story in a way that has never been told before. The advertising legend hosted Channel's Book Club to review his book and share his story. We will show you the first part of that interview today, and then during our next episode, we'll show you the concluding part of the interview. Enjoy it. Mr. Shobanjo, thanks for hosting us on Channel's Book Club.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. The Will to Win. Is it a book that captures your story, quote and unquote, in its entirety? Oftentimes, biographies or autobiographies, they capture the entire story of an individual. At other times, while reading, you get a sense that there is a lot missing. While I was reading this, I felt it captured basically, or it covered all the bases, really. But what's your opinion about The Will to Win? Does it capture your story as much as you would like it to?
Everything that's in that book, as far as I can tell, reflects who I am. It literally captures my life from beginning to where we are today. And so the inputs that we needed to give to ensure that the story is robust can be said to have been done.
The Will to Win, it seems to summarize what has driven you in your business and your career. Can you talk to me a bit about that? That's the title of the book, The Will to Win.
After my father died, something snapped in me based on what my late uncle told me. And basically it was, look, you have to stop this nonsense between you and your father, not facing your studies properly. Because when my father died, because of the circumstance of the time, I was literally promoted on trial to the next class. Not on trial. Yes, I think I was promoted on trial. So he was very furious and said, if your father can take this, I can't. If you fail, that's the end of your education. So at that stage, something snapped. And then that will to want to win started. And this was my Form 2 going to Form 3. And that has defined my life. I'm one person who just likes to win. All right. Maybe because by the time I actually finished my secondary school, I was the head boy, what you call the senior prefect. So being number one, and you couldn't be a senior prefect if you didn't come first. So that attitude of always wanting to come first has, again, psychologically been stuck somewhere in my brain. And therefore, I drive for this excellence. I drive for this will to succeed. I drive for this will to win, as it were.
Usually, when I read biographies, I'm always looking for secrets to success. If I'm reading the biography or the story of somebody I consider successful, I'm always looking for what made him or her the person he or she has become. And I saw a lot of that in your book. I want to point out aspects of your background that I felt were fundamental to who you became later in life, and I would like to get your opinion on whether or not these are correct observations. Number one is the way your parents brought you up, particularly the influence of your dad, on your life. I saw that even though he died when you were very young, but it looked like those first few years when he was alive had tremendous impact on your life years after. Is that a correct observation?
That's very correct. Sometimes, on reflection, I would always think that, did this man know he was going to die young, to the extent that he impacted so much in my life? And after he died, members of my family, the extended family, my father's senior brother, cousins, they were all very worried as they saw me grow up. And they nursed the fear that I could also die young, like my father, because I was too much like a carbon copy of him.
Let me read page 59 and page 58, 59. I'll read from page 58. He then would pull his slippers off his feet and scour the immediate surrounding with his bare feet to seek out evidence that the floor was dirt-free. That's your dad. If he felt a speck of sand with the sole of his feet, someone's day was ruined. He was such a perfectionist, everyone knew not to mess about with his cleanliness in his domain. He loved to meet his house as squeaky clean in the evenings as he had left it in the mornings. Members of his household knew quickly that disorder in whatever form was all that was required to shatter the peace of the home. Details like that are important to me when I'm reading a book. So before meeting you, I thought that was a question I would ask. How impactful were those small details? You became somebody like that too, by reputation. The way you dress and you're perfectionist in nature and all that. How important were those details you observed in his life? Not just him, but also your mom. And how impactful are such things in the lives of people that we consider successful or have reached the heights in their careers and so on?
I think the foundation of any individual usually start from the home. And in my own case, what I saw my parents do, especially my father, really, I don't know how, they just kept going into my brain. And as I grew up and began to chart my own course, those things just became second nature. Without being immodest, you entered this house, you could find that everything is in place. That is just not something that happened today. It's been part of my life. And if you go to my children's houses, you would most likely find the same thing. You may not find opulence, but the things are kept where they needed to be. And the environment is always very clean. So they imbibed that from me, just like I did from my parents. And I hope that it keeps going on from generation to generation.
Do you believe in the concept of self-made success? So I'm saying he's a self-made millionaire, he's a self-made billionaire, it's a self-made man. Do you believe in that? Your story does not support, that concept or philosophy. A lot of people made you from the story. The influence of your dad, the influence of your principal at OGS, the influence of your cousin, the influences of many people. The story seemed to convey the fact that different people molded and influenced you and ultimately made you who you are.
That's correct. It doesn't usually happen that you find an individual who is just alone. There will be various people as you go on in the journey of life who you would come in contact with. And the kind of influence or impact they make in your lives would ultimately determine how you move, the trajectory that you're going to pursue. And I think that is what this story is all about. Whether they are rich or they're not very rich is immaterial. It is those values that they bring to the party that would ultimately decide or define who you turn out to be. My principal, I can never forget him. He's late now, but as mentioned in that book, he was an incredible man who, even though we did not realize it as young children in those days, but today we can look back and say, thank God for this man, what he did to all of us who went through him, as indeed my late cousin, Baragwega, as indeed a couple of other people that I was privileged to meet, who were very close in nurturing me. Because, you see, in life, it is not just your parents who would nurture you. We need to understand that. There will be other influences at school, at home, amongst relations. And if you can open your eyes and open your ears and listen to what they say and what they do, they naturally would impact you one way or the other.
I would like you to say something about how your wife has been influential. It's there in the book anyway, I'm sure, when readers pick it up to read. But I would like to get your view on that part of your life.
I think Joyce has been an incredible partner. To put it in context, when we started the company, we didn't have money at all. 128,000 working capital, 104,000 debt, in manner of hiring air conditioners, on hire purchase from Leventis, and tables and desks and generator. Everything we took a couple of things on hire purchase. And then we wanted to do up, again, knowing who I am, she felt, oh no, we needed to put potted plants here and there. So she would go and buy the potted. We didn't have the money. She would go and buy from our very beginning. Put plants all over the place and all that, made it look very nice. Came to look at the curtains and all that and all that. So she's always been there from the home front and even in the office. Most importantly is that for you to succeed in life, your home front must be properly organized. If you don't have peace at home, you're in trouble. And Joyce ensures that happens.
This is a story of small beginnings and then, growing and growing. When you see that in young people now, in young entrepreneurs, when you see them at that stage of small beginnings, Does it worry you that in some, they don't seem to understand that concept, that this is where it all starts and you grow from here?
One of the reasons I'd like this book to get in the hands of hundreds, if not thousands of young Nigerians is that I want them to learn and see where I am, where I have come from. All right? Because, there's that temptation, people want to look at Aliko Dangote and look at Mike Adenuga and look at, those guys have also worked. They have worked. Because in the case, I knew Aliko way back. And in the book, the story was told. In a house that I lived, Chilaka Close, when I left as the tenant, Aliko was the next tenant in that house. So these people have worked. I have entered Molue in this Lagos. I've entered Damfo. I have entered all sorts of. So if somebody sees me, I'm in a Jeep and all that, he thinks, oh, so this guy, okay, so that's not the way it is. You got to start from somewhere. And I don't know. I can tell you that 75, 80% of successful people have gone by that same route. You got to crawl before you walk. So you get to the top, but you got to follow. There's a process. I think what most young people do is to circumvent that process or circumvent those processes.
I'm just fascinated by this incredible work of art. When I think about how people craft this, it's amazing. This is an image of Queen Idia, the legendary Queen Idia. She was known as a warrior back in the days. She was the mother of one of the Obas of Benin. And I think his name was Esigie or something. And the story has it that she raised an army to fight all those who opposed her son, who wanted to prevent her son from becoming the Oba of Benin. And she was a warrior, a famous warrior. And she's representative of so many great women we've had over the generations in Africa and in Nigeria. And many of them, we still have them today in various aspects of life, business, religion, commerce, any sector imaginable. And one of them is Eugenia Abu. I told you we just came back from Abuja, and she was one of those that we met in Abuja. Fascinating, incredible woman who has succeeded, in her areas of expertise. In line with the National Library of Nigeria, the National Library of Nigeria is conducting a national readership campaign all over the country, trying to get Nigerians reading. And part of that campaign is getting people like Eugenia Abu to talk about their experiences, how books have influenced their lives, how reading has influenced their lives. And so part of that campaign is this segment in which we speak to Eugenia Abu about books and reading in her life. Enjoy this. So it looks like you've had a lifetime of reading.
I've been blessed. My dad, the late Mr. Alfred Ambudu, was an educationist and spent many years teaching. He was Chief Education Officer for the North and then became a lecturer at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, in the Institute of Education, before going to serve his state as permanent secretary. So I basically grew up around books, and we've always had huge libraries in our house. And more than any other of my siblings, I was the one that my father would go into the library with because I was curious about books, and he noticed that. So I spent a lot of my time reading books a lot. In that library, there were all manners of books, books that required me to find the dictionary quickly, that gave me the opportunity to settle into books that were higher than me. So I learned a lot from just hanging around books. And today, I really cannot do without them. I cannot do without books. I have books in my car. When I'm traveling at the airport, I must have a book in my bag because, you know, they delay you so much. You need to read. If you want to find me at an airport waiting room, you'll find me in the bookshop. So because I have books around me, it became a habit. It's in my DNA. And I think all parents should do what my dad did for me. It has become for me that thing that has propelled me forward all my life.
Is that what helps young people develop a reading culture? I've had people come to me to ask, I've got kids, they don't seem interested in books. What do I do? You know, and the answer that usually comes to my head is surround them with books.
Yes.
I mean, if you surround kids with books, they tend to
They gravitate
develop
towards it.
an affinity for books.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Well, yes. When my children were younger, I used to read to them. So it's also important to read a fairy tale to them, read a story to them, and point them to books you want them to read by leaving them lying around, you know, and talking about it from time to time. So you're right, by saying surround them with books, it helps them to develop the interest, in addition to which, if they're bored enough and they don't have TV, they'll find something to do. And, you know, I had a lot of Enid Blyton series in my house for the children. And then I wrote a lot of stories. I'm a writer, so I wrote stories that didn't exist anywhere for my kids. Because sometimes you can't find the book you want them. So you write your own story for them that has a moral undercurrent. But don't hit them on the head with the moral. Children don't resist it when you're preachy. There has to be a story that tells the tale in the tale. Absolutely.
You are not likely to be a good writer if you are not a good reader.
No,
Is that correct?
you will fail miserably if you haven't been reading. You can't write well. Because also, you're building your vocabulary bank. Are you not? There are words that young people today, when you say it, you say penekete, they say it's not an English word. It is an English word. If you are reading enough, you will find those words tucked in the books you are reading. You can check the meaning, and it stays in your memory bank for the rest of your life. So yes, if you are not reading, you are not likely to be a good writer. Yeah.
So I asked you to read from your favorite book or one of your favorite books, and
Yes.
it looks like you struggled picking one.
It was difficult.
I can see about 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
It's
6,
difficult.
7.
I'll tell you one of the ones that is not even here, because I read a lot of African writers as well. We write very well. We have a former minister in Zimbabwe called Sisi Dangaremba. And she writes absolutely beautiful books. We have Chimamanda, and everybody talks about Chimamanda's Purple Hibiscus and other books. But my favorite book is The Thing Around Your Neck. I don't have them here. It's a collection of short stories. Because if you really want to develop your reading and you haven't read for a while, it's good to start with short stories. And The Thing Around Your Neck is a collection of short stories. Say You Are One of Them by Uwema Kpam. Became such an award-winning book written by a Jesuit priest, a Nigerian. So Nigerians are writing. And Trisha Nwabani, Adobe Nwabani, went on to write I Do Not Come to You by Chance, which won the 2013 Commonwealth Prize for Literature. And that's a prize that's £10,000. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
And it was won by a Nigerian. So Nigerians are writing such good books.
This is how we have to end the show today because we've really run out of time. I'm looking forward to next week. As always, my name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.